Greetings nerds and virgins, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going through friendships ruined by the UFC, but before we start, can you like and subscribe? I'm getting views, but I want some subscribers as well since I'm building a community here. So please subscribe to hop on the shadow train. Choo choo! Hop on the shadow train. But would you fight your friend for $1 million? They say faithful friend loves till the end. But what happens when gold, glory, money and legacy come between two hearts? Bound by the string of companionship, only the strong can resist the temptation to betray. Here are 10 friendships ruined by UFC glory. The most recent friendship ruined by the UFC involved Russian heavyweights Sergey Pavlovich and Alexander Volkov, who were slated to clash at UFC Saudi Arabia in June 2024. Neither fighter was keen on the matchup at first, but they both reluctantly agreed, each believing the other had already accepted. The misunderstanding led to tense face-offs where they both blamed each other for the situation. The exchange got so heated that the UFC CEO Dana White had to step in and separate them. Inside the cage, Volkov outstruck Pavlovich and won by a comfortable decision, after which the towering Russian approached his opponent for a friendly embrace. However, the gesture of sportsmanship wasn't reciprocated. A bloodied Pavlovich shoved Volkov away, leaving the crowd stunned and Volkov standing in disbelief and disappointment. Next up, we have Roy Nelson, whose friendship with Antonio Bigfoot Silva wasn't exactly ruined by the clash in the octagon, but it left a sour taste. Nelson had a hell of a right hand, which he didn't have to tell his former training partner Antonio Silva, who helped prepare the big countries for his losing bout with Alistair Overeem. In 2016, their scheduled fight would take place at UFC Fight Night 95 in Silva's hometown of Brazil, with the man facing a UFC termination had to win to inspire a career. Nelson took the fight off the back of a controversial split decision loss to Derek Lewis, so he had his eyes on a comeback, and the American's right hand prevailed. After rocking Silva's brain cells, Nelson went in for the kill, landing a barrage of strikes that he thought were one too many. Feeling the stoppage has come too late, forcing him to land unnecessary shots on his good friend, Nelson kicked referee McCarthy and gave him the finger. He would have been fined for his actions and subsequently suspended. Silva would sadly be released after the fight, but if you're going to go out, it's probably better to go out with a friend, right? Now, heavyweights might look big and tough, but they're often gentle giants who really value friendships. Yet when it comes to fight, they don't mind punching their buddy in the face. That was never clearer when Travis Browne and Andrei Arlovski squared off at UFC 187. Arlovski came in as the underdog and shocked everyone by dominating Browne in the first round, securing a stunning victory, but the real twist came afterwards. In his post-fight interview, an emotional Arlovski apologized to Browne, calling him his brother. Browne was quick to tell Arlovski not to say sorry for doing his job, because he intended to shut his lights out too. The win became one of Arlovski's most standout moments in the UFC, helping him mount a comeback after 6 years away from the company. Unfortunately for Browne, he couldn't regain his form, losing 4 of his next 5 fights and then disappearing into the abyss. Moving on, Colby Covington has burned through friendships on the way to 3 UFC title shots, yet he's still chasing shadows. One of his earliest and biggest fallouts was with former American top team buddy Robbie Lawler, after Covington accused the former UFC welterweight of being a diva for leaving the team to join Hard Knocks 365 gym. While Covington insisted that Lawler left because of a photo on the wall showing Tyron Woodley's victory over him in 2016, Lawler shrugged off the claims, saying he had only simply found a new direction. Never one to hold back, Covington escalated things by accusing Lawler of betraying those who trained him and promised to leave him in a pool of his own blood. The drama came to a head when they were set to face off in the UFC main event on ESPN 5, where Covington won it by a decision. And that was as far as the Colby-Robbie friendship is concerned. But there's more Colby-induced chaos later in the video, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, anyone with a brother knows that sibling rivalry is inevitable, but it usually doesn't happen in the professional world. That wasn't the case between Bob Shamrock's adopted sons, Ken and Frank Shamrock. In the mid-90s, both brothers were big names in the UFC, as Ken as a major draw and Frank as the light heavyweight champion. Their father, Bob Shamrock, sided with Ken when Frank left their gym to start his own, making their rivalry public. Despite their feud, Frank still praised his father for having an amazing heart and for taking them off the streets. Ken didn't hold back though, calling Frank an ungrateful punk who disrespected their father, while Frank accused Ken of being a bully. In 2008, it seemed the fight was finally going to happen when the brothers signed a contract, but it fell through when Frank dismissed the idea, saying he didn't see the point of fighting an old man. The two eventually buried the hatchet years later when Frank cornered Ken in his final fight against Royce Gracie in 2016. Like the ones you have seen so far, Jon Jones and Rashad Evans were the best of friends until Golden Glory ruined it all. These two light heavyweight phenoms trained together under the tutelage of Greg Jackson at his renowned Jackson Wink training facility in Albuquerque, and they once promised that their bond would never be broken by the sport. But the sheen of the light heavyweight gold was too tempting. Everything changed when Jones got a shot at the title against Shogun Rua, stepping in on short notice for Evans, who was originally slated for the event. Evans had initially gave Jones his blessing, but when Jones started hinting at a potential matchup with his best friend, it rubbed his friend off the wrong way. After that, tensions flared and Evans declared war on his Jackson Wink teammate members. Eventually leaving the camp, the former friends traded barbs on Twitter and TV, even getting into a heated exchange at a nightclub before their originally scheduled fight at UFC 133. Injuries kept pushing the fight back, but they finally met at UFC 145, where Jones scored a dominant decision victory. Up next, we got Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw's rivalry was the worst case of friendships turned to foes in the bantamweight division. It all started when Dillashaw left Team Alpha Male to team with his former head coach Dwayne Lugwood. Many felt there was more to this decision than met the eye. Uriah Faber, the team of Team Alpha Male, claimed that Dillashaw was banished from the team, and Garbrandt quickly sided with the UFC veteran by casting Dillashaw as the enemy. It didn't take long for the grudge match between the two to materialize, and it took place a year and a half after Dillashaw's departure from Team Alpha Male. The first fight was booked for UFC 217, ahead of which both mentioned how they got the better of each other in their sparring sessions. The stint as coaches on the UFC Ultimate Fighter 25 only heightened the drama, and things got even more personal when Faber and Garbrandt accused Dillashaw of derailing the career of young prospect Chris Holdsworth, accusing TJ Dillashaw of cheap-shotting Holdsworth during a sparring session and causing a severe concussion that ended his career. The bad blood led to two intensely personal fights, both won by Dillashaw. However, the new champ's career took a hit when he was suspended for 2 years after testing positive for banned substances following a loss to Henry Cejudo in a super fight. He voluntarily relinquished his bantamweight title he had won against Garbrandt. Next up is a rivalry that packed arenas and set two of the UFC's biggest legends on a collision course. Back in 2004, as the UFC was cementing itself as the top dog in MMA, Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell were training partners and buddies. Tito was the light heavyweight champion and Liddell was the fast rising sidekick, who played second fiddle to the champ until a string of victories brought them both face to face. Once Ortiz's best friend, Liddell was ice cold in his twin fights against Ortiz in the UFC. The two legends first battled it out at UFC 47 in a non-title fight. When Ortiz was knocked out in the second round, the second fight came a few years later, when Liddell, who was the champion then, put his title on the line against his ex-buddy, knocking him out again, this time in round number 3. Next up, Khabib Nurmagomedov's rivalry with Conor McGregor is one of the darkest in MMA history. But did you know these blood rivals were once good friends? When McGregor was knocking out featherweights right, left and center, Khabib was a fan. He even asked the Irishman for his fight gear to keep as a souvenir. The two even took a picture backstage, and no, it's not photoshopped. The two were on good terms until McGregor moved up to his lightweight and robbed Khabib of a well-deserved title shot against Eddie Alvarez. Khabib was also used as a pawn by the UFC during Alvarez-McGregor negotiations, and the Dagestani didn't like it one bit. Right after his win against Michael Johnson at UFC 205, Khabib called McGregor out, calling him a chicken. A few years later, McGregor was stripped of his belt due to inactivity, and Khabib and Tony were booked to fight for the vacant title at UFC 223. Tony pulled out, and in came Al Iaquinta as a short replacement opponent. McGregor's teammate Artem Lobov was also fighting on the same card, and when he ran into Khabib in a hotel lobby, the Eagle slapped him a couple of times for talking smack. McGregor flew all the way from Ireland to Brooklyn, New York, and attacked a fighter bus carrying Khabib. He also injured a couple fighters and was arrested. Khabib's fight went to plan, however, and he won the belt before calling out McGregor. 6 months later, Khabib defended his title against McGregor by choking him out in the 4th round. To this day, the two hate each other, much like Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington. The drama between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal is a classic tale of friendships gone sour. Once training partners in the renowned American top team in South Florida, their relationship began to unravel as Covington's abrasive persona started to rub everyone, including Masvidal, the wrong way. The tension grew as Masvidal distanced himself from Covington, especially after ATT's founder Dan Lambert had to enforce a zero trash talking policy to curb Covington's incessive verbal insults at his teammates. The final straw came when Covington allegedly refused to pay their longtime striking coach, leading to a definitive split. In 2020, Covington left ATT for MMA Masters. The rivalry reached the octagon at UFC 272, where Covington secured a decisive victory. However, the animosity didn't stop there. In March 2022, Masvidal took the feud to the streets, attacking Covington outside a Miami steakhouse, an incident that led to legal consequences. So these were 10 friendships ruined by the UFC. Which storyline did you enjoy the most? But thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to hop on the Shadow Train. Choo choo, hop on the Shadow Train. But yeah, I'll see you at the top.
You tried to break me, but you couldn't tear me apart. I've got a fire inside, gonna ignite and restart. I'm rising up higher than before. With every step I take, I'm closing in on the score.